Yo, in today's video, we'll be looking at strange and creepy TikToks that are going to make you question reality.
Ayo, peace fam, Source God, Around TV, bang, 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 more life family, bliss up, abundance, or don't know, already, grand rising family. Yeah, what you're looking at right here is called a solar halo at sunrise. I've never seen this before, and they're calling it a super rare phenomenon. So you know it's something that's never happened before. When you hear them say super rare, it means this is something new coming through the vortex, through the conduit. As you can see, this looks more like the black hole sun to me than any so-called halo. We've seen sun halos before. They don't look like this. And this phenomenon, family, it's taking place exclusively at sunrise. That's like when the dawn breaks. It's a magical time. It's almost when the veil is the thinnest. So it's no surprise that in this time, in the energetic range that we're in, we can see the black hole sun emerging through the density. And here we go, Council, on this journey, this black hole halo phenomenon, which I again believe or know is the energetics coming through the conduit, the black hole, to feed us these new codes. And it's being represented in this waveform. Again, these are just more signs and wonders in the heavens. These are the things we were told to look for. And when we see these things, to be prepared, to stay ready, because things are about to change. This is the season of the upheaval, the falling away, new earth in this quantum spin. Everything was reversed before, and now it's being set straight. The motion and the physics of the environment is changed. It's been rearranged, so you have to change with it. Again, adapt or die. They're already telling you that the metal ball core of the earth has stopped and now is spinning in reverse. Scientists are saying this. What they're really saying is the poles have flipped. The magnetic poles have flipped. The whole disk is flipped, and we've gone back to the original pattern of things. The flower of life grid, the crystal grid pattern, is now back in control, and we're seeing the new codes coming through to reset and restore everything back to the original. Their time on this plane is up, and that's what all these signs and wonders are showing us. Gear up and prepare yourself to be a new earth, that new Jerusalem, crystal city energy. Vibrate higher, match Mother Earth so you don't get wiped out with the parasites. Anyway, stay up, stay lit. Let's go. Bang, bang.
Anybody ever seen that? Anybody ever seen that sunrise halo? I ain't never seen no sunrise halo.
Here is the esoteric symbolism in a cartoon we all know called Dragon Ball Z. Like anything else in entertainment, if you watch this with your third eye, it's actually a lot of deep hidden esoteric symbolism. The 7 Dragon Balls is the personification of the 7 main chakras, the 7 subtle bodies, and the 7 planes of existence. When you activate all 7 main chakras, you get a Kundalini serpent. When you activate all 7 main chakras, they allow you access to the 7 subtle bodies as well as the 7 planes of existence. This all leads to the emergence of the Kundalini serpent, aka Shinran. And if you notice, every time Goku was on planet Kai, he was more heavy and more dense, just like us in these meat suits. Planet Kai is where he got his training, just like where we get our training. It's no coincidence they named the place where Goku get his training Planet Kai. Another name for planet Earth is actually Kai. And before we came down to planet Kai, we was composed primarily of photon energy. We are light beings. So in a sense, the higher version of us died when we came to planet Kai, making us have to go through training on a dense planet. And our journey is to regain the 7 Dragon Balls, aka the 7 chakras, in order to access a Kundalini awakening, aka Shinran. And when you see Goku doing the Spirit Bomb technique, he's actually building his auric field. The energy you see around him is emitted from his heart chakra due to the fact that the heart is a capacitor that fluctuates our electrical currency. Typically, our auric field stretches out about 3 feet, but with the right pranic energy circulation, we can get our auric field to stretch out even further. Now, in the animation, if you ever seen it, when Goku's actually gathering his energy, he typically is usurping energy from other individuals around him, basically. And he's asking them for their energy and things of that nature, asking for positive energy in order to build his auric field. This supports the theory that everything's connected energetically on a spiritual level. Quantum physicists refer to it as the string theory. And if you look at the character Piccolo, you can actually see he was dressed like a Moor, all right? And the funny thing is, he was green. And in ancient times, our skin was green before oxygen was pumped in our atmosphere. If you look at Popo, he had the same attire, dressed in the same Moor apparel. Even though Popo was dressed like a Moor, he actually had the embodiment of the Hindu god Mahakala. Mahakala was actually referred to as the god of time. Maybe this whole time Popo was OP and we ain't even know it. Character Birish, known as the god of destruction, is actually the personification of Anubis and Sekhmet. Dragon Ball also say that their universe is based off Universe 7, and those that follow the mathematics know that 7 is based off the God number. In conclusion, I believe Dragon Ball is based on a spiritual journey to unlock your 7 chakras in order to seek a Kundalini awakening.
So we got some big news, again, involving this weird symbol on this container. As you all know, these containers with this big orange eagle have been popping up all over the U.S. So I've been doing videos and talking to people. Apparently, this symbolism has been showing up all over America, Montana, Georgia, Florida, Michigan, Ohio, and here in Virginia. And everyone that's doing research on this thing, figuring out why these shipments are coming into all these different towns, have found out that it's a shipping company that was bought out by an overseas corporation owned in China. But then it has ties to German symbolism. So I don't know what to make of this. It's been months. We're still checking on the shipments and they're still here. So does anyone else have any information about the containers in your area? Why is this happening?
I don't have any in my area that I know of.
Look at the size of the building compared to the person. If you guys can see that, I'll try to zoom in right there. Look at that little itty bitty person right there. So that's the size of how large these wood and plaster buildings are made out of. This was all just built overnight. You know, they even built statues like this overnight. That's what they're trying to tell us. I mean, look at this. Looks like Paul Bunyan, or whatever that story was that they made up about Paul Bunyan. But this is just some random guy on a horse, which who really knows who he is? We have some horses, huge statues, which look like they were already here, a guy on a horse. And then also this Native American on his horse, which is interesting. Now here's a great one that's showing of a temporary building. Now let me show you the details of this one. Look at that. Temporary, they say. Even all those windows with archways. Imagine how much time it would take to put every single little window in here and every single little arch and do all of that work by hand. No machinery, no power tools, nothing of, say, what we have today. This would take a long time. I mean, I had a friend who I was watching who built an archway in one of his buildings, and it took a couple days. Well, these archways are about 100 times the size. What's also interesting is look at all those lightning rods up on top. Doesn't seem like they were too afraid of the lightning, that's for sure. Almost seems like they were trying to capture that lightning, kind of like what we've talked about in the past with the old world buildings.
Yeah, the old world is not what we think.
For all the people that either believe or don't believe that giants existed in North America, that maybe believe that the Smithsonian had something to do with covering it up, we got some receipts for you. In 1651, the last battleground with the giants happened in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's recorded in Dauphin County History, Chapter 1. Remember, you heard it here first on Human Origins Revealed. Go check us out on YouTube and TikTok. The truth is here. The state of Pennsylvania documented it, that the last of them were killed in Pennsylvania, at least in that state in 1651, at a place called Atracoeur. It's in Dauphin County History, Chapter 1. Just remember where you got that news. Go look it up. Tonight we're going to be discussing it on live. Giants existed in North America. When they were recruiting people to bring their families here, they didn't tell them. The last of them were defeated on a place called Juniata Island, the Onuyuthahaga. That's the name of the people that lived there. And they're called the Standing Stones people of North America, if you didn't know that. They come from Standing Stones, Pennsylvania. There's a lot of history that's uncovered because we're dealing with these pre-Mesopotamian, proto-Mesopotamian sites all up and down the 13 colonies. And the Susquehanna River was visited. For the receipts on the Smithsonian, Dr. Hay came down and did an expedition in 1916 because all of the archaeologists in the region knew about this battleground. He visited it, and by 1920, they already started building a dam that Dr. Hay himself, an employee of the Smithsonian. So you say it's a conspiracy that the Smithsonian hid giant things. Well, I'm telling you that I have the receipts. We're going to discuss more of it online on live tonight on TikTok. And that way you can see, you can read for yourself that at least in 1651, that's when the last were defeated. So from 1492 to 1651, there were giants running around in colonial North America. That's the truth. This is the kind of information we're trying to bring to you because Dr. Hay came down, signed the permit. When they constructed this dam, it is written in all the notes. It's written in gemology books how the employees were carrying off translucent green gemstone. They called it Williamsite, putting it in their lunch pails, put it in their pockets. They called it birdstone. They were carrying it out of there. They buried the bones. It's in the receipts. We're going to show you in writing that Dr. Hay issued a permit and that they buried bones into the right shoulder of that dam. It's the truth. When we visited the State of Pennsylvania Museum, we sat with Dr. Kurt Carr, the senior curator of the State Museum at the time. We showed him all of that and we said, these other hundreds of skeletons, where did they go? And after he put his head down for a minute, he looked up and he told us with multiple witnesses that they ground them into the farmers' fields, the adjoining fields to this area. They took all of the other bones and ground them up there. So if you ever believed that the Smithsonian was involved in covering up giants, I got the receipts for you. Come over and look at our videos because we're trying to save the ancient sites that have their bones, their tools, and the normal-sized people like ourselves that lived in and around them. Please, Human Origins Revealed, visit us on YouTube. Follow us here on TikTok. We're going to go live tonight and discuss the content that we released today. We're looking forward to having you there. Thank you for your time.
Yo, giants were definitely real. I'm starting to believe like Bigfoot's real too. You know when people be seeing sightings of Bigfoot, but like, you know, he'd be kind of hiding stuff or in the mountains and things like that. Imagine if you're a race of giants or people like Bigfoot and they trying to exterminate you basically. You're going to hide too. You ain't going to show yourself. And now imagine doing that for a couple 100 years. You've been trying to hide and not be seen, and it's only a small few of you left, few survivors. And it's millions of us little bitty ant humans, you know? Why was she cut not long after this?
Is that before the NBA Finals?
And let me know y'all's thoughts on why y'all think Kaiser was copycat.
What's good, family? Where would history be if all the books were burned and there were only coins to remember the past? I want to compare a series of coins to see if they speak like books. This coin shows a face illuminated like a sun. Below is a mirror or shield with light rays passing through. The date could say I-669. This coin has the same image as the last, except the sun has struck the mirror or shield. Look at the date. Is that I/1, like the year 1? In the sky on this coin, you can see a being in a cloud, and they have an arrow in a hand, pointed downward. Below, there is a field on fire. There's 2 people on a chariot and 2 horses running in front of them. This coin has the same image as the last, except there's a line coming from the cloud to the fields, like as if the arrow caused the fire. The date on this coin could say J689. So far, without a book, the coins show a being with a illuminated face in the cloud attacking. On this coin, there is a being in the cloud destroying the land. It doesn't have an arrow this time. Family, all I'm doing is comparing coins to see if they speak like a book. This coin, like the last coin, show a man in a cloud. He doesn't have arrows. Could it be an explosive device? The coin also showed this being fighting from the air and the ground. Can you see the cannons? Family, does the coins tell a story of angels in a cloud or people in a ship that's cloaked itself like clouds while attacking everything below? Can coins speak like a book? Friend up. Drop a like for the next one.
They used to put the truth on the coins. And I think that 1,000 years was wiped out. I don't know what year we live in. Look at this. How far does it go? What's it say? Saw a missile hitting the Pentagon, not a plane. All of the sensors were turned off that day. One apparently did not turn off, and it shows this object hits the Pentagon, and it did not look like an airplane. At each floor, successive puffs of smoke are seen, squibs. All the way down, those puffs of smoke are due to controlled demolitions. The collapse of the Twin Towers was caused by a controlled demolition. Those little puffs of smoke were weird.
Fourth dimensional beings cast a three-dimensional shadow on Earth, and I can prove it scientifically, bitch.
Okay, you have to watch this video. This is a perfect explanation of how we see shadow people in our three-dimensional space. These beings are fourth dimensional beings that are casting three-dimensional shadows. Just like us being three-dimensional beings, we cast a two-dimensional shadow. Einstein says you need to describe where you are not only in a three-dimensional space, but also in time. What time you are in. And that's the fourth dimension. That's the dimension that three-dimensional beings like us, we can't touch. At least we can't see into yet. But she describes this perfectly. Go watch this video. But let's take it a step further. Let's take it one dimension down. A comic book page is a two-dimensional medium. Now, let's say that we're able to stick an object into that comic book medium and interact with it. Now, what's that two-dimensional being like Superman or Spider-Man going to see? If we stick a pen into their reality, they're going to see that, but it's not the whole object. Maybe we'll stick it in this way. Maybe I should stop saying stick it in. But you get my point. They're not seeing the entire picture, just like we're not seeing the entire picture of the Hat Man or the Shadow People. So let's take it one step up. So us being in the third dimension, what do we see if a fourth dimensional being sticks an object into our dimension? I gotta quit saying this. We see something like this. Yeah. Go watch this video. She makes a perfect point. So all this talk of four dimensions, how many dimensions are there out there? Well, according to science, somewhere between 10 and 26. Damn it, man.
It's a lot of stuff we ain't seeing then if it's 10 to 26.
Were insane asylums originally created to lock up the survivors of the Tartarian Empire who wouldn't keep their mouths shut about what they remember? Do me a favor. Whether you think I'm absolutely out of my mind or you think that I might be onto something, take a drive around town. I want you to critically observe your skyline. Pick out the churches and the banks and the state capitals. Then I want you to compare those buildings to every other building in your city. You will notice two extremely different types of architecture. If after doing this you realize something strange is going on here, I want you to do me one more favor and find out how old those buildings are. Then I want you to compare them to the archaeological evidence of ancient Greece, Rome, and Egypt. Chances are at this point you're going to be questioning everything you were ever told about our history. So go ahead and look up Tartarian technology, because now your mind's going to be absolutely blown. Human beings used to be a part of an incredibly beautiful and advanced civilization, but we were invaded, and there are multiple historical accounts that show that this is exactly what happened. The siege of our civilization was a global, if not cosmic, event. The entire civilization was destroyed, leaving only the strongest buildings standing. Here is one of those buildings, the Museum of Fine Arts in San Francisco. I've been to these ancient Atlantean structures, and trust me, even though this photo is absolutely beautiful, you have no idea how incredible this building is, or how large it is. Let me give you an idea. See me over here by the column? Hey. That's about as tall as a human being is in comparison to this massive building. We did not have the technology to build such structures 100 years ago. An 18th century German writer, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, once said that music is liquid architecture and architecture is frozen music. You might have already come to the realization that he was not talking about modern times. Does this look like frozen music to you? Or does it look like a prison? So back to these insane asylums. What happens every time you question the mainstream narrative? They have a lot of names that they'll call you, but probably the nastiest and most dangerous one is crazy. How many people sit inside insane asylums today simply for having an opinion that goes against the mainstream narrative? Or how many times have you walked into a counselor, psychologist, or therapist office to tell them you were having a bad day and just needed somebody to talk to, and they tried to give you a pill that altered your brain chemistry? There are many accounts of individuals back then looking at these buildings, looking completely confused, distraught, traumatized, telling very strange stories of a time past where human beings were like the gods. Allegedly, these people were thrown in the wacky bin because they were saying too much. We used to be Atlantis. We were invaded by an alien hybrid species, and the evidence is mounting to prove.
Y'all think he lying?
The attack on breakfast foods is imminent. For whatever you do, do not consume an egg right now. Today is September 7th, and as of today, eggs are on recall, a really, really bad recall. This recall just happened yesterday, and already 6 people in one state of Chicago have been sent to the hospital, and 24 in multiple other states total. That means that this is spreading at a massive rate, and do not consume eggs right now. Leave the fucking chickens at the store. So, to be clear, the name of the 2 companies that are causing this massive salmonella outbreak is Milo's Poultry Farm as well as Tony's Fresh Market branded eggs. And yes, this also includes any organic eggs from these companies, and these eggs have been contaminated with salmonella, and as of today there are 64 people in the hospital for eating these fucking eggs. So put them down, I beg you. There is a special warning from the CDC for specific states in the Midwest that includes Michigan and Illinois and Wisconsin, seeing as how these eggs come locally and they are in our grocery stores. But in addition to those states, these eggs were also sold in Michigan, California, Colorado, Iowa, Minnesota, Utah, and Virginia. Now, this is said to be a new strain of salmonella, and the CDC is warning that the outbreak may be difficult to treat with commonly recommended antibiotics and could require a different antibiotic choice for those who need medication. What makes this 10 times worse is that they have done laboratory testing at the CDC, and this specific strain of salmonella revealed that it is resistant to 2 of the most main types of antibiotics that are necessary for treating salmonella. They are saying they have potentially started to necessitate different forms of treatments for those who are sickened, meaning they have told people this shit ain't gonna work. Besties, yesterday was waffles, today was eggs. I don't know, we're eating dinner for breakfast. I don't give a fuck anymore. I have some eggs to go return, so I will see y'all the fuck later, because I bought them. I live in the Midwest.
Hey, if you ever wanted to egg somebody's house, now would be the time to use those eggs.
If you want to know what Tartaria looked like in its prime, come to the Grand Square in Brussels, Belgium, where you'll find yourself in an actual fairy tale.
For real.
Plus the waffles are amazing. So we'll start with the centerpiece of the square, the town hall building, which dates way back to the 1400s. And those look like energy spires to me. Was this originally an atmospheric energy antenna? There's gold on the top, which is a conductor. And the whole facade of the building appears to be laced with energy spires. Now apparently the town hall building is the only building here which survived an attack by the French in 1695. But was that all part of an orchestrated reset? We're now looking at what's known as the King's House. Again, energy spires galore, and a central antenna. Allegedly named the King's House after a Spanish king who resided there. And like the rest of these buildings, it was apparently rebuilt after the attack in 1695. Again, that could have been some sort of reset that took place, or maybe it never happened and these buildings are just way older than what they want us to know. Because we know by now not to trust official history. As you can see, this building is dated 1698. Well, if the attack and subsequent destruction took place in 1695, they sure rebuilt that pretty quick. Only took 3 years, apparently. A likely story.
Man, I feel like, you know, things like Harry Potter and all that stuff probably used to be real back in the day.
Imagine how difficult it would be to be mining all this copper and all these materials and traveling around and bringing them from city to city. In this book, they talked about how they were taking the buildings from the World Fair and moving them city to city. They were just throwing them on the train. They were like, oh, you know, let's just take that one, throw it on the train, bring it on over. And then they even said with the Ferris wheel, which we know the Ferris wheel weighed 1,200 tons, they were also throwing that on the train and just kind of bring it over city to city. They were just like, yep, let's just transport that. We'll bring that over there, and we'll just kind of bring that over there. And then we'll bring all the light bulbs too. The light bulbs that already existed. the electricity that already existed. You know, they were just throwing it around. Those horse and buggies, they could just build stuff like no other. It was because they had great work ethic. That's what it was. They could walk uphill both ways. You know, they could go up a hill both ways. But
yeah, man.
And this building used to power itself off the ether. These peaks right here at the top, they're called cathodes. They're all electrical conductors. That center window at the top, that's what your DNA looks like. The door is the magnetic arc. You can see right here at the top of these points right here, they got wires ran off of it. This was all free energy right here. That is not a cornerstone. This is a face stone. No mason would do that. There's going to be a cornerstone with a date and a maker's mark in the foundation. This was built in 900 AD. They added 1,000 years to everything. My father was a stonemason. Look at the weathering on this building. Just look at the weathering on the structure alone. This is 1,000 years worth of weathering. They ran this wire up at the top off the copper railing. This all goes up to one of them cathodes. You could see they poured this concrete right here next to the building. This is not a foundation. This is the next tier up. Look at the brick laid across. See how it goes down? These are all tiers. There is not a cornerstone on any corner of this building. You can see this lower ramp. This all goes down. They put these walls right here to cover up the brick, well, that stone that they laid. This goes down. These are what the stained glass windows are supposed to look like before they take them out. This is the artificial energy unit that they put on it. This used to be steps going up to the church. They closed this off and bricked it in.
Yeah, what happened to the old world, y'all?
It looks like the mud floods buried cities of gold, and that's what led to the gold rush of 1849. People weren't digging up naturally occurring ore, they were digging up destroyed cities of Tartaria. The mud floods, I think, happened around 1820. I believe this timeline adds up, but what do I not know yet?
That would make sense, though.
Have you ever thought about why structures in Europe, Asia, and even America share the same distinctive features? Not forgetting that they also seem to be constructed with methods far too advanced for their supposed time periods. It raises the question, is our historical timeline accurate, or has it been completely fabricated to hide something, or were they all built by the same architect? This is where it gets crazy. There was a colossal empire named Tartaria that was a highly advanced civilization with technology and knowledge far beyond even our current time. They have even been credited with the construction of the Great Wall of China. But it gets even more unsettling. What if the dates on these buildings are wrong? Imagine if that number 1 wasn't a 1 at all. Our history could be off by 1,000 years. The current timeline is a lie. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, they held events called World's Fairs to use as cover-ups to demolish our advanced past. Many recount that these structures were wiped out days after the events. This was evidence of a global civilization, a civilization whose roots could be traced all the way back to ancient Egypt.
I'm telling you, man, these buildings, a lot older than what we think they are. You know, America's a lot older than what we think it is as well. You know, they came in with that fake story that it was nothing here, or nobody here, or that they killed everybody off, or the Native Americans that they killed off. It'd be real cool to like stumble upon a book that just has all the history from like year one all the way through. I'd read that.
Why is this guy missing his head? Is it an attempt to hide something from our history? Further proving that we're looking at Tartarian architecture. Here in Brussels, Belgium, we're at the Church of Our Lady of Victories, which was apparently completed in the 1400s. You see that huge window frame up there in the shape of a somatic pattern? Perhaps once providing Brussels with healing vibrations, captured from the atmosphere with the use of these energy spires, which are probably filled with some sort of conductive alloy on the inside. But officially we're told this was all crafted with the use of hammers and chisels, with materials brought here via horses and carts. But is there a lost technology that was used that our current controllers don't want us to know about? And yes, the doors are absolutely huge and clearly built for something larger than an average-sized human. Here's another entrance with giant doors. You can see those people entering with just a fraction of the size of the entrance itself. So who or what was it really designed for?
Exactly. Who or what?
The Tartaria mud flood theory is a controversial hypothesis that suggests a catastrophic event took place in the 18th or 19th century, resulting in a massive flood of mud that covered entire cities and wiped out entire civilizations. According to this theory, the civilization of Tartary, which was once a powerful empire that covered a large part of the Eurasian continent, was destroyed by this event, and its existence was deliberately erased from history by the ruling elite. One of the main pieces of evidence cited by proponents of the Tartaria mud flood theory is the presence of mysterious buildings and structures in various parts of the world that seem to be older than the officially recognized timeline of human history. These structures, known as megaliths, are often made of large stone blocks that would have been impossible to move and erect using the technology available at the time they were supposedly built. Another piece of evidence cited by proponents of the Tartaria mud flood theory is the strange architectural features found in many old buildings in Europe and elsewhere. These features, such as strange windows and doorways, seem to have no practical purpose and are unlike anything found in modern architecture. Proponents of the theory argue that these features are remnants of an older civilization that was destroyed by the mud flood. There are also claims that the Tartaria mud flood theory is supported by geological evidence. Some researchers have pointed to the presence of sedimentary layers in certain regions of the world that seem to indicate a massive flood event took place at some point in the past. Other researchers have claimed that the soil samples from various parts of the world contain high levels of unusual substances, such as iridium, that are typically associated with meteor impacts or other catastrophic events. Proponents of the Tartaria mud flood.
Sue, can anyone tell me what these colors are in the sky?
Chemicals. That's weird looking now. Just randomly in the clouds.
In this video, I'll go over what I refer to as the dual timelines, and then I'll share some additional thoughts. Now that you're familiar with the timeline I explained in part 1, we're going to use a more simplified version for this video. You'll see that I'm throwing out a second resurrection date of 1820, but the exact date has not yet been confirmed. So to begin, I believe that it's been easy for the enemy to deceive us about anything on the before Christ or BC timeline, because conveniently nothing is ever dated from this period. The people did not keep track of the year because there was really no anchor point. We can be told pretty much anything about artifacts from this time. I believe that the practice of keeping track of the year truly began in year 1 of the millennial kingdom. I believe this is the true meaning of AD, or the Latin phrase Anno Domini, which means in the year of the Lord. There's usually some variation of this phrase in old books and manuscripts. Because of the large amount of dated artifacts that have survived from the millennial kingdom, Satan has had to provide many cover stories for all of the evidence he couldn't destroy. He has told us that the phrase Anno Domini, or in the year of the Lord, means from the birth of Jesus. However, I believe that the true year 1 is the beginning of Jesus' kingdom here on earth. Since this period would last just 1,000 literal years, there was a reason to keep track of time, as you could say it serves as a countdown. During the kingdom, a 3-digit dating system was used, usually preceded by the letter I. It is believed that this letter I stands for Isus or Jesus, which means Jesus in Greek and Latin. There seems to be several other variations of the spelling and pronunciation of Jesus' name just within Latin alone, as well as other languages. Sometimes there are other characters that precede the 3-digit date, such as a J or lowercase I, as well as unfamiliar characters that may be derived from Greek, Aramaic, or Hebrew. One of the best ways I've found for finding examples of a non-numeric character in the year is by looking at genuine coins that have survived from the millennial kingdom. Here we have a coin that we would be told is from the year 1621. However, we see that the character in the first digit is different from the numeral 1 in the last digit, and therefore we can conclude that the first digit is not a numeral 1. Here we have another coin that we would be told is from the year 1700, but obviously the character in the first digit does not resemble a numeral 1, and there is a large space separating it from the 3-digit year. We can deduce that this coin is not from 1700, but the year 700 of the kingdom. Here we have another more subtle example, but we can see that the relief of the letter I in the date is more refined and congruent with the other letters, while the numerals are more consistent with each other. Again, we would be told that this artifact is from 1890, but I would determine the date on this coin reads I-890, meaning year 890 of the kingdom of Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
There are many more examples, and you'll have no trouble finding your own. It's one of those things where once you see it, you can't unsee it. Dating coins and other artifacts can be tricky, because beginning around the so-called 1800s, we begin to see artifacts that have been created by the enemy with a genuine numeral 1 in the first digit of the date. This is around the time that Satan was released from his prison and began the timeline deception. He began inserting false dates into all kinds of objects, including backdating inscriptions in books, on monuments and architecture, various works of art, and more. How exactly he pulled this off, I couldn't easily tell you. Lastly, one final example. If we had an object or event that was dated with the number 1900, that would be over here on the timeline, in our little season. But if we found an object that was dated I-900, that would actually fall back here, in the late kingdom. Conversely, if we have a pre-reset date such as 1500, that is generally the same year as I-500. If it seems a little confusing, well, it was meant to be, but you'll get the hang of it. In addition to the numeric dating system, the year was also commonly denoted in what we call Roman numerals. I have a feeling that perhaps Roman numerals are to be interpreted a little differently than what we've been told, but that's not something I'll be investigating right now. If you're someone who researches these sorts of things, then you're aware of what is regarded as the 1,000 years of added history that's been injected into our timeline. In all actuality, it appears to be about 800 to 850 years. I believe the entire reason that Satan has added approximately 800 years into our timeline is to once again provide a cover story for the things he couldn't destroy. As I showed just a couple examples of, there are innumerable artifacts that have the letter I or J preceding the year. We are told that an artifact dated I-500 would be the year 1500, but by doing so, a lot of fake and exaggerated history will need to be added in. This is all in a huge effort to hide the millennial kingdom from the people of our time. The more you learn about the true nature of our past, the more profoundly obvious it is that Jesus Christ is the ultimate truth, and it would definitely be a lot harder to go out and deceive the nations if we all understood we were riding off the coattails of Christ's kingdom. So with that being said, I believe that we're actually in approximately the year 1200. A more precise date can only be pinpointed by figuring out the exact year in the false timeline that the so-called reset took place. If year 1 truly begins with the start of the millennial kingdom, then 1,000 years have passed, plus the 200 or so years that we are already into the little season, putting us in approximately the year 1200. If we were to continue to base time off of the birth of Christ, then you would just add 70 years.
Man, that is crazy how they can manipulate the timelines like that, you know, and you can find old coins or old buildings with the J or the I. It makes you question things because they'll tell you, oh, that was 1800s, but it really wasn't. It was 800. So then what year are we really living in? And then when you look at all the Tartarian buildings, I'm not going to call them Tartarian buildings, but all the old world buildings, when you look at those old world buildings, there's just something about them that don't relate to the reality that we live in right now. We don't build buildings like that. We don't even build clay structures like that. We can't, and we won't. You know, we just destroy them at this point. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think about Tartaria or the old world down below. These are some of the most strange and bizarre TikToks that are out there. If you like the content, don't forget to subscribe, turn your notification bells on, and until next time, YouTube, peace.